What's up, Taiwan? I'm Yvonne with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. The U.S. has shot down an unidentified object over its skies, the fourth in a little over a week. A fighter jet shot down the object over Lake Huron near the Canadian border on Sunday afternoon. The Pentagon said it didn't pose a military threat, but could have potentially interfered with air traffic. It had recently been spotted over Montana near sensitive military sites. Two other objects were shot out of the sky over Alaska and Canada. That follows the takedown of a suspected Chinese spy balloon that flew above the U.S. in early February. Rescue teams in Turkey have pulled more survivors from the rubble of last week's massive earthquake, including a pregnant woman and two children. But the hope of finding more survivors is fading. The magnitude 7.8 quake, which struck Turkey and Syria on February 6th, has killed at least 33,000 people. It's flattened thousands of buildings and damaged roads and runways. Turkish authorities said many apartment buildings that collapsed were not up to standard. They've begun detaining the contractors who built them. In Syria, the UN is working to open new channels to allow aid into the country. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has finished a 5-day trip of Japan. His visit was marked by agreements to increase security cooperation between the two countries. Marcos returned to the Philippines on Sunday after meeting with Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. Both sides pledged to increase joint military exercises with a focus on maritime security and Coast Guard cooperation. It was Marcos' first bilateral trip as president. This comes as his country looks for allies to help deter an increasingly aggressive China. For more on what further cooperation between the Philippines and Japan could mean for the region, our reporter Jaime Ocon spoke to Aaron Matthew Lariosa, a security analyst based in Washington, D.C.
Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has just wrapped up his trip to Japan. What came out of this trip?
The most significant thing security-wise would probably be the disaster relief treaty, the terms of reference that the two parties did. That's pretty big, all things considered, because that's been roughly the main point of engagement between the Philippine military and Japanese militaries. In fact, actually, this is really crucial because the Philippine delegation to Turkey in response to the earthquake, the Army sent the 525th Engineering Combat Brigade Battalion, and that unit received Japanese training, which really does show the amount of cooperation these two parties go through. Another big point that was brought up, interestingly, by Marcos is the joint Philippine Coast Guard and JICA cooperation on a potential base for Japanese-built Coast Guard vessels in Subic Bay. That's pretty big because we've been seeing a lot of Japanese involvement with Philippine maritime security, especially regarding the Philippine Coast Guard.
We've seen an increase in Japanese and Philippine security cooperation. Why is this happening now?
The framework is probably, I'd say, of all the countries in Southeast Asia, the Philippines have probably been the go-to for Japan, starting at the bat. Philippine-Japanese relations, diplomatic ties have been going back really far back. The Philippines has received a lot of development support from Japan dating back to the 60s and 70s, so this is a really concrete relationship. Recently, I'd say there's more on the part of Japan's role in the Indo-Pacific, especially with their motto, a free and open Indo-Pacific. That's why you see so much Japanese backing. For example, 12 patrol vessels they've given the Philippine Coast Guard through loans, maritime security enhancement projects, and all this type of stuff. It's really due to the recent shift in Japanese policies that has allowed this cooperation to, let's just say, take a more prominent role in security.
That was Aaron Matthew Lariosa, an independent security analyst speaking to Jaime Ocon. Taiwan's defense military has reported that 18 Chinese warplanes were spotted around the country's airspace on Sunday. Among these, 11 planes flew into Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. They also crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait. The ADIZ is not part of the country's territory, but served as a buffer for security purposes. The Chinese flight group included a combat drone, 8 fighter jets, and other aircraft, including an anti-submarine helicopter. China, which considers Taiwan as part of its territory, often sends warplanes into the ADIZ as a form of political pressure. There have been over 150 incursions this year. Taiwan's military says it's monitoring the situation. One of Taiwan's biggest annual religious events is underway. Attendees of the Baishatun Mazu procession are taking part in the multi-day trek across central Taiwan. There's been record attendance this year, including some famous faces. John Ventriez has the details.
It's well past midnight, but people here are just getting started. This was the scene at Baishatun Gongtian Temple in Miaoli County early on Sunday. From here, thousands of devotees of the sea goddess Mazu are setting off on an annual procession. Over the next 9 days or so, they'll march hundreds of kilometers in a loop between two famous Mazu temples in central Taiwan. It's one of the country's biggest religious events, and one of its most unpredictable. The goddess herself is said to direct the parade route. Worshippers carrying her statue on a throne say they feel the goddess guiding them. They stop and start, turn, and make detours as they feel inspired to. This means the exact route is always different, and no one can be sure how long the journey will take. Even those who tag along for just part of the route can face a tough slog, but devotees are willing to go through significant hardship for the goddess's blessing. An important event for Taoists, the Baishatun Mazu procession is said to have first taken place around 200 years ago. In 2010, the Culture Ministry declared it a piece of intangible cultural heritage. And now, with pandemic rules easing, this year's event is expected to see a record turnout. Over 110,000 people have signed up to take part in at least a section of the journey. The opening day even drew some well-known participants. Also in attendance was Turkish-born Taiwanese TV presenter Rifat. He said he is taking part to pray for the victims of last week's earthquake in Turkey. The procession is expected to wrap up next Monday, but worshippers say only the goddess herself can know for sure. Ethan Pan and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
An abandoned mansion in southern Taiwan dating back to the late 1920s is up for sale. The catch? It's thought to be haunted. Jeremy Olivier has this report.
This is the Liu Historical Residence, but in Taiwan it's more commonly known as the Minxiong Ghost House, and now it could be yours for the right price. It was built in 1929 by a wealthy landowner named Liu Rongyu. Its design is a mixture of Eastern and Western styles. The house was abandoned in 1945 and has fallen into disrepair. But more recently, it's been a popular tourist spot, and there was even a horror movie made about it. Now, a real estate company has put the house and surrounding property up for sale. The asking price, about $2.3 million US. Some nearby residents aren't sure anyone will want to buy it.
确实是个景点啊。那至于说有没有开发利益这个就要看建商怎么样去。
But the real estate agents say there's been no shortage of interested buyers.
有建设公司他们想要盖房子啊，那另外也有文创他们想说把它保留，然后作为一个文创规划。那另外的话还有那个休闲产业计划把它保留，然后就是开发周边的景点。
Whoever ends up buying the Liu residence will be inheriting a significant, if not a bit scary, piece of Taiwan's local history. Hein Wang and Jeremy Olivier for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we leave you with images of gorilla brothers Jabali and Ringo playing in Taipei Zoo. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care and see you next time.